We all know that the merge not only combined all the realms into Ninjago, but it also ushered in a new generation of elemental masters. Sora is the first to have the elemental power of technology. We got Wildfire as the first elemental master of heat, Euphrasia has succeeded Moro to become the new elemental master of wind, and Geo is the first elemental master of fusion. But one day I started looking back at the Stone Cold comic way back in 2013 and I thought, what if these guys showed up as new elemental masters from Dragon's Rising? Could we see these superpowered people become canon? For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, basically, these villains made their debut in the Stone Cold comic, which comes from a line of other stories like Challenge of Samukai, Destiny of Doom, and most well known, The Phantom Ninja. They don't really fit into the TV show's continuity because they have a lot of consistencies, like look at the Tomb of the Fangpire book, for example. Basically, they're not canon, but God, are they good! In Stone Cold, Wu tells the ninja about how he fought and imprisoned several villains in a place called the Tower of Tears. It was designed in a way that only an exceptional spinjitzu master could enter or exit. Among the members of Wu's Rogues Gallery were Garon the Dreamer, Kerchon the Invincible, the Crystal Ninja, the Time Ninja, and the Mask of Malice. They were kept in the tower for a while until someone arranged for it to be destroyed, releasing the prisoners to seek vengeance on Wu. Throughout the book, Wu recalls how he fought off the escapees individually until he later found out that it was Garmadon who orchestrated the breakout. It was all part of his plan to either have Wu killed or build up his confidence to the point that he would be too arrogant to stop his brother. I'll run through each of their roles and their powers in Stone Cold to give you a taste of how important they are. The first villain Wu went after in the book was named Kerchon the Invincible. He was a six-armed warlord who was once a leader of other six-armed people. After escaping the tower, he gained the ability to summon an infinite amount of axes from his hands. After he was taken out by Wu, he gave him a clue leading to the Time Ninja. The Time Ninja was a bandit who gained the power to see a second into the future, allowing him to predict all of his opponent's attacks. He was kind of like a precursor to a Chronix and Crux and the Sword of Sanctuary as they were related to the powers of time, and for the sword's case he could see and predict an opponent's moves. Cardinsto, whatever, he was sort of an inspiration to Belobo, as both had the ability to control nature. He ambushed Wu during their scuffle until he mysteriously vanished in a flash of light, leaving behind only swords, axes, and bones. Yeah, the book doesn't even show what happened to him after that, so I'll just assume that the author just came up with some cheap, lazy cop-out for Wu to move on to the next villains. Insect Master was a humanoid bug who can control, go figure, insects. He used a swarm of bees to chase Wu into a river where he encountered a trio of fish-like monsters called the Barracudox. Just like Insect Master, they were also imprisoned in the Tower of Tears. Wu was able to defeat both Insect Master and the Barracudox in one fell swoop. Garon the Dreamer was the next, and in my opinion, the most iconic villain that Wu went up against in this book. He was the master of the dream world and had the power to control and harm people through their dreams. He was likely the biggest challenge for Wu as he tormented the sensei with a series of illusions and warped versions of his memories, especially his memory of Garmadon being bitten by the Great Devourer. Respecting Wu's resolve, Garon ultimately decided to kick him out of his dream sequence. The Mask of Malice was a massive, sentient green Hanya mask with supernatural powers. After Wu started taking the offensive to the rest of the escapees after his fight with Garon, he came across Malice. Unlike the rest of the escapees, Malice didn't seem interested in fighting Wu, so he instead gave him a clue that Garmadon was pulling the strings before leaving. There were obviously more villains like the Crystal Ninja and whoever these guys are, but the book just skips over them. No one knows what happened to all the villains after that, but what's interesting about them is that they were the catalyst for the formation of the ninja team, at least in this continuity. It was through them, as well as a vision of the future, that Wu realized that it's never a bad thing to seek help. The escapees and Garmadon made him realize that he wasn't a one-man army. As much as I would love to get a follow-up on their stories, that comic is over 10 years old at this point, and that line of comics was discontinued after Comic Crisis.
Possibly because they're not even canon, so...
But what does this have to do with Dragon's Rising? Okay, yes, I know. Let's get back to the main question of this video. Could we see these guys show up on screen? If so, how and why? I think the short answer is... kind of. Like, at best, I think we might see certain elements of some of them, or at least a nod to a few of their backstories. If the writers were to do a full adaptation of the comic, I'm not sure there would be enough time to see them go on a revenge tour to find Wu. For starters, Wu is currently a disembodied voice or some sort of ghost. We don't even know exactly what happened to him after the merge. Besides, I'm sure people are getting tired of the whole Wu not telling anyone about the villains who have beef with him trope. Some of their powers from the comic ended up translating into the show as well. Garon's powers over dreams is kind of like Neuro's powers of telepathy. The Crystal Ninja had the powers to control crystals just like the Overlord. The Time Ninja was sort of a precursor to Achronix and Crux, as I stated earlier. And Cardinsto being the Master of Nature is of course just like the Lobo. For characters like Garon or the Crystal Ninja, we could just change their origins by having them get their powers from the merge, and make them similar to pre-existing elemental masters. If Season 1 gave us new elemental masters of wind and smoke, then we could certainly see Garon as the first elemental master of dreams, or Insect Master as the first master of insects. We could get Cardinsto as the replacement for Belobo. If Cinder is going to be the replacement for Ash, then why not? Or we could just give Dareth the power to control animals. Where is Dareth, for God's sake?
I know the tiger.
I'm not dying to see this kind of stuff happen, but if Salil can appear in a could-be canon fanfiction, anything is possible. She was only in the Who is the Phantom Ninja comic, and former showrunner Tommy Andreasen has stated that she wouldn't be involved in a season. Despite this, he later goes on to say that the Phantom Ninja comic could be considered canon, which personally I don't, but it is what it is. Not to mention that he gives her a large role in his unfinished Way of the Departed story. If there are some higher-ups out there who are willing to acknowledge the existence of Salil, when honestly I think they could have just skipped over her, then the villains from Stone Cold have to at least be on one of the writers' minds. Not to mention, adding more elemental masters into the mix could offer some great conflict and add more to the post-merge elemental masters concept. We could see the ninja going up against these new, updated versions of the Tower of Tears escapees and dive deeper into the whole new and old elemental masters arc that Season 1 introduced. It could bring in the theme of the power you have and how you choose to use it. One group of superpowered people using their abilities for selfish reasons, going up against another group of superpowered people using their powers for selfless reasons. Who knows, maybe Season 2 will set the stage to explore that concept even more in Season 3, and using the villains from an old comic could make for some cool antagonists. But that's what I think. Let me know what you have to say. Do you think Dragon's Rising could bring in some of the villains from Stone Cold? Which ones do you want to see most? Do you want to see Garon the Dreamer, Kirchon the Invincible, the Mask of Malice, or the Time Ninja? Let me know in the comments section below. If you want to check out the Stone Cold comic, go to your local library or search on Amazon. And be sure to check out my merch store, leave a like and hit subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my social media platforms. As always, I will see you in the next video. Take care.